So you must also like the idea of unicorns. Because when I read Taking Stock in Yourself, that part of the book, and the 4 traits, I'm like, that's only a unicorn.
What do you mean? Help me.
I'm just like, it's a 1 in a million. Because here, and maybe it's not 1 in a million, but I'm like, okay, you must be King Arthur. Like, I'm giving you tons of props.
Yeah.
And you must have the round table and all the dudes with the swords. Because I'm like, what you're talking about in this book, hey, I'm all about, I want to be great every day, man. I want to strive for greatness and try to help my people achieve the same thing and change their life. And what outcome do you want? Let's work towards that for everyone. I want that. But I'm like, man, the description of the 4 traits of taking stock in myself, I'm like, I got to become a unicorn. So do I? To run a great business, do I have to be a unicorn?
No, I mean, that's a great question. I think that as I said earlier, it is just about trying to get better in looking at these areas and how can I improve. I'm in the middle of a pretty massive transition right now, myself as a leader. It is arduous. It's frustrating. I struggle with it all the time, like it's not a minute to minute thing, but it's probably a day by day thing, And so, but it's just about knowing where I want to get to and understanding my traits and understanding how those traits are impacting how I want to get there. No, understanding how those traits are going to impact my ability to get there and then working on that stuff. That's it.
Let me make a stab at this conversation too. And you can push back because it's like, hey, if it's, but I'm like, for you to be able to write this book, man, you are highly skilled and capable.
Wow.
That's it. No, I read it and it's just like, so what I know is Mike McFall has it. No doubt you've got it. Now, you don't like that. You don't like the accolades. It's the deep breaths and all that, but you've got it. And here's the thing, in the quiet moments, you've got it. Not to say you're not trying to go to play, but you've got it because it's these unique, from my perspective, it's these unique attributes that find themselves, that come together in one human being, that when they find themselves in a leadership position, they end up becoming Michael Jordan on a basketball court. I'm not saying Michael Jordan's the best human being, but that dude was not settling for anything less than greatness. Just watch the dance, right?
So bad.
But what you're trying to do is, see, I don't think he cared about what people thought about him. And I don't think he could. If he wanted greatness, there just weren't many people in the world that were going to have the same mindset and the same approach when they went on that basketball court. They just might not have cared about winning every championship in every game. I'm making a lot of assumptions, but I think I'm right.
Well, okay, so I think there's a story here that fits. I got asked to, from a specific professor at Harvard, to come in and present my ideas. And the concept was that he wanted to take us and turn us into a case study at Harvard around this idea of building, nurturing, supportive, loving environments for our people around in this whole, the book. And so he asked me to come speak to his class. So I did. And I went in front of him. I laid it all out. I thought I did a great job. So we get to the end of it. They broke out into groups, 10 or 12 groups, and they were discussing. It was like a 3-hour class. So then they all came back, and each group brought me their assessment. The number one thing that came out of those groups was, if I couldn't prove that this stuff would make my franchise owners more profitable, it wasn't gonna work. So they were basically saying to me, no, Mike, all that matters is, can you make your franchise owners more profitable? And I mean, we ended the class. I had a few more engagements with the professor. They never engaged me again. it's a pretty strong, what's the opposite of endorsement? It's a pretty strong
rebuke.
Yes, of my book, of my work, right? And I had to say, no, like, I don't agree with you. I don't agree with that. And I had to write the book anyway, because this was as I was writing the book, this was happening. And, there's a lot of stuff in here that I think people are going to disagree with, but I'm okay with that. Right. I mean, and so I think 20 years from now, you're going to look at the high performing companies over the last 20 years, and they're going to be the companies that are taking this incredibly powerful human-centered approach to managing and leading. And I believe that in my soul.
I mean, it's obvious you believe it, because the middle to 2/3 of this book are around this idea of love in business.
Yeah. And here's what I believe. I believe if you go back and you look at the great leaders throughout history, they were all doing this stuff. We didn't call it love, right? We didn't call it love. But the people on amazing teams, they felt incredibly connected to that team. They felt supported. They felt nurtured. And that's what allowed them to for that team to just blossom.
So are you making an argument that Michael Jordan, because, man, I watched The Dance, and I don't know if there's anybody that loves him.
I know. He's such an outlier,
I know that, right? But here's the question. Is that, and I'm not trying to draw names, but is Apple an outlier? I've read the book. I read the Steve Jobs book. I think personally I could have succeeded in that environment, but I don't know many people that would choose to.
Yeah.
And then, and then you read, you even talk about, I'm talking about these, these huge companies, but then even about Bill Gates, right? You look, I recently watched his documentary, and in the beginning, these guys were not settling for anything less than achieving greatness. And I hope I'm saying it the right way, but because of that there weren't too many people that identified with them the same way, they weren't willing to allow people to act differently than that when they were on the train with them. So can Mike McFall do both? Because I read this book, man, and the two conversations we have, here's what you're going to do. You're going to look back in 10 or 15 years, and you're either going to be one of the only ones who are right, or you're going to be sad and be like, I tried it, man.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I had a belief that I could love them and develop them and have them buy into this as much, and have them work 30 or 40 hours a week if they wanted to, and sell this idea that you can do this while also you're achieving to change your life. Like, you're saying, I want to buy into it, man. I 100% do. But I'm asking myself what I've been through over the past 15, 16 years. This isn't about my story, but I'm like, if I would have given less than that, and if I wouldn't have had those 2 or 3, 4 people that were carrying that flag with me, would we have been here? So maybe the answer to that's no, but then maybe the argument in this book is, no, Mark, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the next step. I'm talking about you going from 300 stores to 1,000. I'm talking about you taking your company from 150 agents to 800, right? So I'm just trying to put all this together because I buy into it. And I think managers and employees will read this and they'll be like, yeah, he's right.
And leaders will be right. Yep. And leaders will be like, come on,
Yeah. So that's the true question when you're writing it. Doesn't matter if it's right or not. Do you really believe it's possible?
Yeah, I do. So again, if we look at leadership as you have a team of people, it doesn't matter if you're a manager and a middle manager or you're the CEO. You have a team of 6, 8 people. Every CEO has their team of 6 or 8. And what we're talking about here is creating an environment where each member of that team can blossom into, and I use the word superhero. And then that group of superheroes does extraordinary things that go beyond your expectations. And that's it. And I don't think how many hours you work a week matters. Because if they're doing that with each one of their teams, now we have 24 to 30 to 40 superheroes. And then if each one of those people is doing that with their teams, right? And so that's this cascading effect. That's the impact that we want to have.